paper 20th Century Malayalam Literature in English Translation. Core paper opted for 3rd semester BA English students. Today we have the short story The Vein of Memory by K.R Meera. K.R Meera was born at Shastamkota in Kollam district and had her education at Gandhigram Rural University, from where she obtained an MA degree in Communicative English. She worked as a journalist with the Malayalam Manorama group of publications for a while and then resigned the job in order to work as an independent writer. From Ormayude Narambu, The Vein of Memory, we find the emergence of a mature storyteller who wants to ensure that each story provides a different experience in terms of theme and technique. The latest work, Arachar, is an attempt to analyze the era of corporate colonialism, where media rules people's lives. Ormayude Narambu, that is 2002, Mohamanya 2004, Ave Maria 2006, and K.R Meerayude Kadakal 2010 are her major short story collections. She has also published novellas and novels, which include Malagayude Marugugal, Kadineela, Netromeelanam, etc. Penguin India has brought out a collection of her short stories in translation under the title Yellow is the Color of Longing, 2011. She has won several awards, including the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award. Here in this short story, The Vein of Memory, is a story that has been inspired by the life of an elderly woman writer, the wife of a political leader whom the author knew from her childhood. The story is about unrecognized connections that exist between women writers across history, across languages and cultures. Moving to the story, The Vein of Memory. Her voice was like rusted hinge grating. A violet-colored vein stood out challengingly on her wrinkled neck. Straightening her spectacles a bit, the old woman asked without any particular introduction, "Do you write, dear?" So when the story begins, you have an old lady. What are her specialties? Her voice is like a rusted hinge, and there is a violet-colored vein at her wrinkled neck, and she wears spectacles. And straightening her spectacles, she asked to someone, "Do you write, dear?" The girl did not answer. So you have an old lady plus a young girl. The girl did not answer. She simply looked at her. Quite by chance, her eyes rested on the old woman's head. What is the specialty of this old woman's head? Half her scalp was visible with some stray black strands scattered over it. അല്ലേ, മുടിയൊന്നുമില്ല, ഓൾമോസ്റ്റ് എന്താണ് തലയോട്ടി കാണാം. There was a meeting which Balathol attended before independence, the old woman said. Though the young girl did not respond to the question made by this old lady, she goes on describing an event. On pronouncing the word independence, her dentures jutted out pathetically. The girl felt a kind of revulsion. As if to hide her uneasiness, she twisted and turned the folds of the light blue chunni of her chudidar. What was independence in those days? Wasn't everyone literally mad over it? The nylon and Nylex clothes were all banned. We would wear only khadar. I had a sari with her black border. Even wearing sari was very fashionable. So this old lady talks about that old golden days. The girl shifted her glance to the bookshelf since it vexed her to watch the old woman tonguing her dentures back to its original position. Independence എന്നൊക്കെ പറഞ്ഞപ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് ആ ഓൾഡ് വിമൻ്റെ അല്ലേ വെപ്പ് പല്ല് ഇറ്റ് കെയിം ഔട്ട്. On the topmost rack of the shelf were some old framed photos. A black and white photo of someone garlanding somebody at a reception towered authoritatively over the others. The rest appeared moth-eaten, water-stained family photos. On the second and third racks, there were only a few notebooks. The girl looked once again at the old woman inadvertently. I wrote a poem when Valliyamma asked me to, and read it at the meeting. The sweet scent of the flowers of imagination in our humble gardens too. And then she started to recite that poem. When she uttered the word sweet scent, the old woman's dentures protruded. In her effort to sing the poem tunefully, her cracked sounds strained quite a lot. It became a groan as if somebody had gripped her throat. The Mahakavi, she joined her hands in salutation with awe and respect as if she saw Valathol before her. He called me to him, placed both his hands on my head and blessed me. Saraswati herself. The old lady tenderly stroked her own head which Valathol's hands had touched. The girl discovered with chagrin that there were other black strands beneath her grey hair. The room smelt of a stick of sandalwood incense, which had long since burned down. A hot breeze madly entered the room, creating havoc. A steel flask on the table with its faded tablecloth shivered lightly. The ounce glass nearby fell and rolled away. The odor of some medicine immediately filled the air. In spite of all this, the girl had begun to like the room, filled with many smells. This must be the most airy room in this house. I was just 9 years old then, the old woman was reminiscing, but not like the present day girls. Had the growth of a 16-year-old. My husband had seen me at that meeting, and she abruptly put an end to what she was saying, then carefully broke off a white thread that stood out at the edge of her neriyadu. She was wearing a mundu and neriyadu with a narrow red border. Her worn-looking white blouse was crumpled. The old woman got up as if greatly perturbed. It was towards the shelf in the corner of the room that she moved unsteadily. She sat down on a chair near the shelf and leafed through each book with intense concentration. The girl had the feeling that the chair was a permanent fixture there, and it was the old woman's practice to sit there when she handled her books. So, പഴയ കാലത്തെ ഓർമ്മകളെക്കുറിച്ച് പറഞ്ഞു. അതിനുശേഷം എന്താണ്, ആ വള്ളത്തോൾ അറ്റൻഡ് ചെയ്ത ആ മീറ്റിങ്ങിലാണ് തൻ്റെ ഹസ്ബൻഡ് തന്നെ ആദ്യമായിട്ട് കാണുന്നത്. ലേറ്റർ ഓൺ അതിന് ശേഷമുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യുന്നില്ല, പറയുന്നില്ല. ദാറ്റ് മീൻസ് ആഫ്റ്റർ ദാറ്റ് ലൈഫ് ചേഞ്ച്ഡ് ഫോർ ദി ഓൾഡ് ലേഡി. എല്ലാം തകിടം മറിഞ്ഞു അല്ലേ. ആൻഡ് അതിനുശേഷം ബുക്കുകൾ അടുക്കിയേക്കുന്ന ആ ഷെൽഫിൻ്റെ അടുത്തേക്ക് ചെന്ന് ഷീ സാറ്റ് ഡൗൺ. Not this. It is a book with a red cover. Opening a book, the old woman said with great excitement. The girl shuddered. When the old woman roughed the pages of the book again, the fine dust rising from it made the girl want to sneeze. It was without the least sympathy that the old woman looked at the girl then. I too had this at times. She opened another book. Wasn't that why that book was lost? Due to this sneezing, I had grown too lazy to keep the old newspapers, children's books, and such things in order. It was amidst all this. This book somewhere, somehow, my husband would get angry if any old paper was seen anywhere around. Everything should be kept in order. No paper or dust was to be seen anywhere in the room. The room had to be swept clean every day, all the time. Her breath trembled. Who could foresee that such a need would arise in old age? സോ അന്വേഷിക്കുന്നൊരു ബുക്ക് കാണുന്നില്ലല്ലേ. ആൻഡ് എന്തുകൊണ്ടത് കാണാത്തതിൻ്റെ റീസൺസും പറയുന്നുണ്ട്. ദാറ്റ് ടച്ച്ഡ് ദ ഗേൾസ് ഹാർട്ട്. ഷീ വാസ് റൈറ്റ്. Who could foresee? She closed that book and took another. When I wrote the first story, my husband was in jail. So this old woman was a writer, was an writer at her young age. So she wrote her first story when her husband was in jail. Those were days when communists were arrested on sight. On saying story, the old woman's false teeth shook horribly. Irritated, the girl got up and went to the window. She tried to smoothen the strands of hair that had swept across her face in the strong breeze that had blown in again. The sindoor she had put on her Simandarega in the morning, soaked in the sweat, stuck to her finger. It clung there for a second like a drop of blood. So, this young girl, she is also a married woman. Then slowly fell off and died. The old woman was opening yet another notebook. Ramankutti's old notebook, the story written in the light of a lamp, lit at the corner of this room, away from the sight of the mother of this house, mother-in-law. The mother here used to get enraged if she saw someone reading or writing. What use would it be to the family, she would ask. She turned the pages of the book slowly. When he said that he liked the girl who read the poem at the meeting, it seems it created a furor. Isn't that right? What use are stories and poems? Like mother says, girls should cook, give birth to babies. She turned the pages slowly. My husband was the one who named Ramankutti. He said, let him grow like Rama. So their first child, Ramankutti, the name was given by her husband. And he said, let him grow like Rama, like the king. I liked the name Ravindranath then. Then I thought, let his wish prevail. Why simply Coral? Whether Ravindranath or Ramankutti, isn't my son my own? So I did not think of any name for Sri Kutti too. He named her Sri Kumari. I had told Ramankutti, when you have children, if it is a boy, name him Ravindranath, and if a girl, Mrinalini. Isn't Tagore's given name Ravindranath and his wife's Mrinalini? When it was time to say Mrinalini, the girl hastily looked away. Even so, the girl had started feeling a kind of kinship with the old women. തൻ്റെ കഥയാണ് അല്ലേ, ലൈഫ് എക്സ്പീരിയൻസസ് ആണ് ആ ഓൾഡ് ലേഡി നറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. The first story was about a lady who went to jail in the struggle for independence. When the word independence was spelled, the girl pursed up her lips and secretly felt her teeth with her tongue, were any loose. സോ എ യങ് ഗേൾ ആണ് ഇപ്പോൾ ഇൻഡിപെൻഡൻസ് ഓൾഡ് ലേഡി പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് പല അവിടെ തന്നെ ഇരിപ്പുണ്ടോ എന്ന് ജസ്റ്റ് ഷീസ് secretly felt her teeth with her tongue. The old woman opened another book. Hide that carefully, read out to my husband. But a few days after he came back from jail, when I said that I had written a story, the girl looked on eagerly. The old woman's face had grown dim. In a hurry, she put that book back in place and took another.